and we just sit around a fire.
Honestly, without the
One,
hat on, you really are gonna fit the bill of like a cultish looking monk. Hey, folks, thanks for joining me for this episode from Embellish Pod, an opportunity for me to ramble about whiskey or something for a few minutes. If you got here by chance, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Hopefully, I can be found on any podcasting platform that exists. And if you can't find me on a platform, send me an email at embellishpod@gmail.com and I'll get that taken care of. You can also find video versions of this podcast on YouTube. You can find all of my links on Instagram at embellishpod or TikTok with the same handle. I have a website. It is www.embellishpod.com. And that's a place you can pick up these links, episode details, and more. Tonight, we're going to have an opportunity to talk about influencers, whiskey, um, rolled ham, or ham roll, or pork roll, or whatever it happens to be, and a host of other things. I have Ryan and Chrissy joining me, and it's going to be a fantastic episode. So this evening, I have Ryan and Chrissy joining me. These two individuals were part of the influencer panel at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and I was lucky enough to sit out in the audience and watch that. And I developed a whole bunch of questions that I wanted to kind of continue on. And so I reached out to them and asked them if they wouldn't mind hopping on, and they absolutely did hop on. So I'll give you guys, a couple seconds or a minute to kind of explain who you are, as if folks that are listening to this or watching this don't already know. But just give you a second, and we'll let Chrissy go first.
Hi. Well, my name is Chrissy. I go by a Lil Dab of Bourbon on Instagram. And so as on the panel, one of them, oh gosh, one of the people, why are words heard? It's 9:30. One of the people on the panel, Nate, who is not with us at the moment, him and I laughed and joked because I've been around Instagram since about 2014, 2015. I consider myself kind of the grandma of the social influencer world. Been around a minute. But I have been in the spirits industry for the last decade. And I have just kind of joined the community and shared my experiences as I've gone along, from, writing, podcasting, all the way up to now currently working under the Blue Run umbrella. So sharing everything.
All right, Ryan, now it's your turn.
I jokingly said it at the beginning, but I've been told many times not to say it that way. Hi, I'm Ryan Mills. I'm that one dude, Ryan, on most platforms everywhere. I don't have a whiskey background. I'm not from Kentucky, but I really love the spirit. It's mainly the art and science of it all, the history. I mean, what's not to like about whiskey? And that's really where it all comes from. I've started my journey with Irish and Scotch whiskeys, jumping into bourbon about, say, 6 to 8 years ago, depending on what year it actually is. And since then, just posting stuff on the internet, and people, for some reason, tend to like it. And if they do, awesome. If they don't, then, hey, let's just talk whiskey. That's what I enjoy doing. So.
And sometimes if they don't like it, it's even more feedback than if they do like it, right? Because people like to complain on the internet.
Big time.
Kind of as a warm up question here, influencers, at least from the outside looking in, are playing a larger and larger role in introducing a brand. And if the craft distillery vein is exploding. If I am a new craft distillery or just a new distillery in general, what should I be doing with influencers, if anything? Some may not, some may, but like, where should I start? What should I be doing?
Whew. I'll let you go first, Ryan.
All right. So for me, this is kind of a fun question because I'm on the other side, right? I deal with a lot of craft distilleries because it's one of my passions. Like, I love highlighting some of the newer distilleries that are out there, whether they're sourcing, whether they're producing themselves. To me, good whiskey is good whiskey, right? The best thing a craft distillery or a newer distillery or brand should try to do when reaching out is just reach out, just say hi. One of my many favorite craft distilleries, if I can still consider it that, is Blue Run, right? Mike reached out and just like, I really like your stuff. And we chatted. He didn't even like come out and say, hey, here's a bottle. He was just like, I just want to talk whiskey with somebody. And I was like, that's great, because that's what my page is all about, just talking whiskey. So we struck up a conversation. We had a good time talking about it. I actually didn't, that made me go and like grab a bottle of Blue Run. And that initially is where it all kind of started. Same thing happened with Penelope. Mike and Danny reached out and we were just talking whiskey. I got to know a couple of the people on their team, some great, awesome people. I'm friends with Matt from Penelope. It's all about getting in front of people, not just the big names, that one whiskey dude Ryan's out there, right? It's just getting in front of people that enjoy whiskey and talking whiskey with them is essentially it. That's the number one thing. Who cares about followers? Who cares about engagement? If they like whiskey, talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say to them.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna piggyback on that. That's the number one thing. It doesn't matter if you have, 400, 500 followers or 100,000 followers. The end goal is the fact that that person enjoys whiskey and they're openly out there speaking to it. So why not touch that person, reach out, contact with them, and just make that connection, because it doesn't matter when it comes to it at the end of the day. And we've become so saturated that I think sometimes it gets a little bit lost in translation, especially if you just solely focus on one particular influencer. And I think all aspects of it is something to make sure that you hit and reach, because you're going to make that person a fan no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And I'll echo that a little bit. I don't sit in the influencer vein in the same way that you guys do, but I'm really glad that y'all both mentioned Blue Run and Penelope, because in the summer of 22, I was able to interview both of them within about a 2 or 3 week time frame, when I had almost no followers, and that was exactly it. It was just like, it was some people that are very passionate about a thing that they do. They started up their own thing and they were willing to talk to anyone about it, and that's I think that's a great way to go. The trying to pass out free bottles, that's a really easy game, but I think you build longer lasting relationships with people if you just sit down and have conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%. You know what's really cool? And I have to just put this out there. I'm sorry, but like
Mhm.
Mike from Blue Run randomly sending cards, like
Yep.
just he
Oh, I
that
still have
personal
mine that's
touch
like
is
over here. I have one that is stuck in my shelf over here.
I keep them all
It,
right here in this
it's
drawer.
it's a rare thing, and there's a few folks that are doing it. I've noticed a couple other distilleries that have. I don't know if they've always been doing it, and I just found out after I got one from Mike, or if they're just following his lead. Either way, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So, kudos to them for paying attention, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's gotten to the point where, and that is a great thing that Mike has done, something that he still is committed to doing moving
Mhm.
forward. But it's gotten to the point that people will even go buy Blue Run out from a store, send them a receipt and say, "Hey, I want my note now."
That's
I mean,
great.
it's so great. He's
Mhm.
created this thing, and it's something that people have attached to, because it's a connection point when it comes, an authentic connection
Mhm.
point when it comes to, having that kind of communication with someone in the brand and one of the founders. To have that, like in today's day and age, is incredible.
Oh yeah. John, we're gonna hijack on this one. Because that was the word. That was the key word that just popped into my head as soon as Chrissy said it, was authenticity, right? That works on both the brand level as well as a uh I like the term content creator. On a content
Mhm.
creator level is that authenticity, right? And if you're inauthentic, I think that's the word I want to use, because I'm great with words. If you're inauthentic, then like it kind of loses its luster. It's only um you're just wading the water, right? It's skin deep. But
Mhm.
if you're fully authentic, if you're diving straight into it, like Mike, like Mike and Danny from Penelope, like some of the other great craft distillery brands or craft brands that are out there, it helps us understand our love for the whiskey, not just for the shape of the bottle, the logo, the mystique, or the street cred that it may get, but it's also because the people that work for them are just great and authentic.
Mhm.
So thank you for that, Chrissy.
Yeah. No, I mean it's so true. And again, it's, you know, whiskey is in general is just such a unique thing that brings all of us from all different walks of life together. So to have that connection point, and you know when someone is just not coming to the table with something that is true or authentic, and you know to have that, it just creates longevity, and it creates that connection of like, that is my brand, it will always be my brand.
Yes.
Yeah, and it kind of it dovetails in a little bit with something that David said while y'all were on the panel. Is the goal of an influencer, at least the goal of a brand working with an influencer, is not to convince someone to buy a bottle. It's to convince someone to put down their drink, go buy a bottle, drink that bottle, and then buy a second one or a third one. And I think that's where authenticity and reality kind of comes into play. If you're just trying to have a quick shell game where you're just going to swap bottles real fast, that's pretty simple. But if you're trying to build something sustainably and growth minded, that has to be there. And when he said that on the panel, that was something that sort of stuck in my brain. Is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense at least from a brand's perspective. It's not just to get them to buy one bottle; it's to get them to buy multiples, because you don't build an empire off single bottle sales.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, I guess thinking about that, and Chrissy, you work for a brand. I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of your brand at all. Um, how how do you think, Ryan? I guess how does a brand gonna evaluate the kind of uplift that you're going to give them, or do they?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Look, brands have capabilities to see things, right? Any brand that is reaching out to any type of social media content creator, influencer out there, they have access to, I mean, they probably pay people to access metadata. There's certain types of things out there that'll tell you what type of um, views they're getting, what type of uptick they're getting in total sales after that certain review, or even like engagement rates and other things like that will happen. Okay. The way that I liken to it is like, my real, like what I call a big boy job is not in the whiskey industry. It's not in, like I said, I have a passion for it. I absolutely love whiskey, and I love the art and history and science behind it all. But in my day-to-day job, and what I see from friends that are in the industry, is they're out there huffing it, right? One person doing tastings every single night, 7 days a week, not caring because they have a passion for it as well. But one person in a store, take for instance, a medium-sized store, they're probably tasting what, 50 to 100 people every now and then at that one location. And then you're thinking, even if 50% of those people are purchasing a bottle that night, which is way high, let's just say that, you're probably getting somewhere around what, 25 bottles sold in a weekend from that one location. I'm pretty positive they can say, hey, I'm going to give this bottle to X, Y, and Z social media person, and let's see what uptick happens. And they can look at companies like Sealbox or Mash and Grape, or, not to name names here, Curiata and all those guys, right? They can go, hey, how many bottles were sold online after that day? And they can go, we sold 150 bottles, right? Influencers have single barrels that are constantly hitting the market on a day-to-day, on a week-to-week, cadence. So they're going out there and they're putting out their own product, their own taste, and saying, hey, go buy this bottle. It's a single barrel. And they're selling out, right? That could be anywhere from 150 to 250 bottles, and easily selling out. I like my claim to fame. Sorry, I'm going to have just a big head for a second. Blue Run, that double oaked, all I did was tasting notes on it. All I did was I still have a little bit of the bottle left over here. All I did was tasting notes on it. All I did was feature it and absolutely love it, right? And that bottle sold out in like 2.5 hours. So like I'm like, that's awesome. I enjoyed that
Mhm.
so much. So there's essentially what I'm saying is there's ways of looking that up. There's ways of looking at the commitment. There's looking at the engagement on that particular post. And then on top of that, if there's any type of conversation having, I'm sure the person is sharing some of their statistics as well with that company.
Mhm.
I'm a little long-winded, sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's what this is for.
Yeah, that was the one bottle that I wanted, and I didn't get that one.
Oh no.
I was in an account that day. I was so mad.
Oh
Mhm.
no. I was
But
just like, I couldn't believe it. And I was chatting with Mike about it too. I was like, look, I'm semi-competitive because I am in sales and marketing and things like that for my regular day job. And I absolutely love to highlight good whiskey. And
mhm,
when I got that sample, I was like, oh,
mhm.
that's a really good double oaked rye.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern. I think I might have a thing for double oaked.
You're not the only one. You're not going to be the only one that's super
Mhm.
into that. At least from your perspective, Ryan, do you find yourself, if you get a sample of something new and interesting, are you trying to get yours out there first?
No. I think if it's any consolation, I mean, I don't want to be that guy. Everybody already knows it. I have a floor full of whiskey over here.
Mm-hmm.
All of those need to be reviewed. Uh, and the only reason why I say they need to be reviewed because I want to review all of those, not just for
Mm-hmm.
me, but for just people that follow along and just I get questions all the time like, hey, I saw the Starlight Amberana finish. I really want to know what you feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this feeling that I need to get it out there. Um, but I also forgot what you said.
I
I'm
said,
trying
do you try to
desperately
get
to
there first?
yeah, I don't yeah, oh, that's right. I'm not the biggest guy on like, let's get it out there as soon as humanly possible because I do want to spend some time with it. I want to give people
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
not only just a genuine reaction, but a genuine like idea as to what it is, right? I don't want to go,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is really good, and then go, wait, let me come back to it. And I don't know if that was really good. Why did I rush that? So
Mm.
I never want to rush things. I do mail
Mm-hmm.
calls. If you look at my stories on Instagram, you'll see what I get in the mail. But you may not see an actual quote unquote review on it for a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that answers
And
the question that I forgot
it
midway through
it
the
does.
conversation.
And the reason for the question is that at least from what I observe, and maybe you guys see the same thing. Sometimes it feels like from content creators. I'll stop using the other term for content creators. It can almost become an echo chamber real quick, right?
Real
The
quick.
first person to hit, and I spent some time with this, and I was working on an episode, and I decided to stop because I'm not. I don't want to be insulting of anyone that is creating content, but regularly, if you're in one of the top 5 or 10 kind of realms of reviewing or influencing, that first one that hits, 9 times out of 10, everyone follows suit behind that. This is good. This is bad. Now, it may be that it is objectively good or bad, but do you, and for me, I'm a small holder, do I feel confident saying, nah, they're wrong, this is good, right? And
Yeah.
the case study for me is, you're thinking about the Leopold brothers put out their 3 chamber rye a couple years
Mhm.
ago, and it immediately hit, and a bunch of people were like, this is terrible. But then as people who spend time with whiskey and start thinking about what it actually is, instead of just like, is this going to be the next Sagamore or the next this or the next that? No. There's something a little more complex to it. And it took a while for it to kind of come back around. People be like, okay, this isn't so bad. And so that's why I was kind of saying that if you rush to get it out there, are you trying to get out ahead so you're not influenced by other people? Like, as an influencer, are you going to be influenced? And then are you going to participate in the echo chamber or try to fight against it?
Mm.
Great question. I don't know if Chrissy has anything on. I don't want to like interrupt.
No, for me, I think it's twofold in that regard. I agree. The echo chamber does get massive, but also, for me, I also try to stick with people that are in alignment with my palette, even like who I'm paying attention to, who are very much in alignment with my palette, and listen to what they have to say. But also, at the end of the day, taste is subjective, and I see the rush when that does happen, and then like there is like this one consistent opinion on it. But I also question, like, again, what's going to happen with those people if they're all coming out and saying, oh my gosh, like the Leopold brothers, like, I don't like this was not great, and then revisiting it and going, oh my gosh. I think part of that influence is what you're reading, knowing about the product, and going in not necessarily 100% unbiased. Ryan put a post out not too long ago about, whiskey tasting good and not getting sucked into the age and, all the minute details. If it tastes good, it tastes good. And I think, it's a full effect that happens when you do see influencer or content creators rushing to get those out, and it's that echo chamber of the same thing rather than just kind of standing on your own and going against the grain. And I think, goes to that authenticity, is that it may not be a popular opinion, but at the same time, it's you and it's authentic to you. And I think that in itself speaks more volumes.
Oh, 1000%. I don't know if I could have said it any better myself. But I agree 100%. Here's the fun part about this. And I don't want to step on any toes or make anybody mad by saying it, but to consider yourself the utmost authority or expert on anything automatically disqualifies you.
Mhm.
Because we're tasting whiskey here. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. But either way, that's our opinion. And anybody that, in my opinion, kind of waffles on their own opinion kind of falls a little flat. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't tried a bottle of whiskey and been like, oh, this is terrible. And then came back a few months later and gone, oh, well, a little bit of oxidation got to it. It opened up a little bit.
Mhm.
It's still not my favorite, but it's gotten better over time, sitting in the bottle. But no, I don't think anybody should rush it. I'm not the person, and I'm sure there's a lot of other quote unquote influencers, content creators that are out there that get a bottle and immediately go, we have to do something right now on this. And if we don't, it's the end of the world. It's also kind of like the same vein of the people that are like, I make entertaining content, right? Or I hope so. I'm trying. And if you like it, then you like it. If you don't, then you don't. But you really rarely ever see me talk about news. And there's a lot of people that will get random press releases and they're like, I have to immediately put it out there in front of the entire world for the world to see. But like we all know, I mean, the majority of people can, if you love whiskey, you're going to know the news for whiskey. So no, I don't think anybody needs to put it out there first and foremost, but I like the way what Chrissy was saying. If you can get it out there first and not have kind of the influencer type of deal, I think it was both of you that said it, so I apologize. It would help, but don't sit in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
As Ryan rambles.
But I will say also, like, the thing that for me, and this is something that I share with a lot of people all the time, and I credit Freddie Johnson every single time. Early in my career, and Freddie was my very first tour guide for my very first tour ever at a distillery. And we got talking, and I specifically said something about not liking something. I said it was crap, it was disgusting. And Freddie looks at me and he's like, no. He's like, I'm going to tell you right now. And this is something that you're either going to take it or you're going to leave it. He goes, and you do with it as you wish. He's like, but the one thing I want you to remember is there's nothing that's really super bad. I mean, there might be stuff that just doesn't work with your palate. and how you approach it and how you speak to it. He's like, there are so many people who are behind the brands, from farmers to bottlers, labelers, marketing. There are so many people who are behind each of those brands and so incredibly proud of what they're doing day to day. By you openly coming out and saying, oh my God, that's crap. Oh, that tastes disgusting. Like, you are just diminishing every aspect of what they're putting into that. And you would never say that to that person's face, would you? And I
Yeah.
just kind of took that step back and I was like, you're correct. It was, but it's
accurate.
for me that, like, I share that a lot because I do think, we are rushed a lot of times, and we are rushed into the fact of, like, this stuff is disgusting. This is like, and I've seen it time and time again. And I think we owe the respect to the whiskey. It doesn't matter age, it doesn't matter that, but we owe the respect to the people behind every single brand to know that, hey, that's just not working with my palate. And like Ryan said, maybe go back a couple of months later and revisit.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my worst experiences was on a negative review. Because what was it, 4 years ago, when I was just taking pictures and writing tasting notes like, so many other people do. I made it a point not to say my opinion on it. Right. I just said, look, and I say it to this day, this is my opinion and my opinion alone. I like everybody to try it. Right. But these were the tasting notes. And that in particular, that distillery in particular, had an absolute field day in my comments. So you're only going to do yourself a disservice on a negative review. But I also did it wasn't my palate once again on one of those, one of the brands that we went and saw at Kentucky Bourbon Fest. Like, I think like half of everybody was there. And I said, it's not my cup of tea, but it could be yours. And you know what that brand said to me? That brand was like, look, I'm sorry we couldn't get you this time, but maybe the next time it'll be a good bottle. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you for not ripping me a new behind on that. So there's ways of handling that as well. But telling people that it's your opinion, paramount, 100% paramount. And saying things are crap, I don't really subscribe to that one. I don't like that.
I don't need, well, I mean, Freddie knocked me into an alignment on that one. So it's one that I will constantly moving forward. And everyone's like, oh, that's a safe option. And I said, no, it's not safe. It's my palate. Taste is subjective. I don't know what you ate that day. Like, I don't know what, music was playing in the background, but there's so many different factors that go into it. So
I had jalapeno tacos, and that whiskey was absolute
all of a sudden
trash.
it tastes terrible. Yeah,
That was probably because you ate jalapenos on tacos. Congratulations.
Yeah, we've been shooting absinthe all day long. Now it's time to drink whiskey. And I'll say there are some things that are markedly bad, right? Like Malort is terrible. Like, I think we can all agree that it's absolutely terrible. But
hey, you're going to make all those people in Chicago very mad right now.
Look, half of the people that I work with daily are based in downtown Chicago, and I say it to them every day too. So it's fine.
Dirty in Chicago, like with Malort. I was completely, and when I first moved there, they were like, "Oh, this is welcome to Chicago. Everyone does this." And like,
it's hazing. It's absolute hazing. I went to college. I know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
But I think at least whenever I look at something, unless it is faulted, right, there is something that is actually wrong, like it got corked or whatever, there's floaters or whatever. I may not like it, but can I pick out a flavor in here and tell people, oh, I taste this thing? Because if you really like licorice, you may like this. I'm not going to. I don't like licorice. But if you like licorice, this is here. And that's always kind of the way I've viewed things. But how do you taste? Like, so what do you do when you say, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to taste this? What is your process?
For me, I'm a morning person. It is first thing in the morning. I mean, I have like afternoon, evening, but I also will go back if I can't get to something first thing in the morning. I'll taste it in the evening. but I always go back the next morning just to kind of see. For me, that just seems to be a nice sweet spot for me personally.
Yeah.
But I go through and I'm very like, I don't have coffee. I wake up and drink a big, huge glass of water, and just kind of go about it in that regard.
Yeah. I agree. So like if I want to do an actual like pure tasting, essentially, I want to get everything I possibly can get out of it. It's going to be a small sampling in the morning. It's not drinking in the morning. Don't
Right.
get it twisted. It's a small sampling, coat the palate, get some air in there, taste it, retrohale, all that jazz. Right. I always find it funny when people are like, so how do you taste your whiskey? And I'm like, do you not watch my videos where I just slam shit around?
Well, in the
And
morning, you're slamming and sipping first thing in the
I'm
morning.
like this with my hair's all messed up, and I'm just like, no, I'm joking. But no, I think in real tastings, that's 100%. Have a little bit of a sample in the morning, grab a note. I mean, I keep notebooks around filled with tasting notes, nosings, colors, proofs, all that jazz. All the nerdy things that people do. I do it as well. I don't just slam bottles and give an initial reaction. I try to pull apart the whiskeys as they come. And that's why I'm not, huge on just drinking one type of spirit or one type of whiskey. I have to have, you see behind me the scotches, the Isla scotches, the Canadian whiskeys, even though I make fun of them constantly. Chrissy's dead on. Morning time. Take your time.
Mm-hmm. Do you brush your teeth before or after?
It's a before. Or after. I'm sorry. I drink before I brush my teeth.
Okay.
I want
want
the
my
toothbrush
mouth
and then
to
brushing
be
with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's alcohol. It's cleansing.
Yeah.
No, I like to have my. I'm a subscriber to the fact of like, if you do things on the normal, right? You smoke cigars, if you vape, if you do other things, you're fresh in the morning, right? You're not doing things that are going to. I'm trying to think of the word that I don't want to say inhibit. Stop. Google Voice. That's the worst thing ever. That's going to inhibit your tasting, right? You're used to your mouth tasting a certain way, and that's just what it's going to be. You're at your zero. So after I give a few little bit of a sips and go through my little thing, then I go and I brush my teeth, because minty toothbrush will just ruin everything.
No, I the only reason I asked that is because I had someone kind of like do like that face, like, oh wait, you don't wake up, brush your teeth, and like I'm like, not if I'm going to be drinking whiskey, like, and I don't brush my teeth before I'm drinking my coffee either. Like, no.
I'm not sitting back going glug 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 glug. That's the worst part too, because you know what? I almost, when we do barrel picks in Kentucky or we do barrel picks elsewhere, it's always such a bad morning because I want to wake up, take a shower, brush my teeth, get a cup of coffee, just kind of relax before going to these distilleries. And then I have to remind myself, you can take a shower, but brushing your teeth might be a bad option. It might be a good idea unless it's like an hour or two later, then it's okay.
Right.
Like wake up super early, then brush your teeth. But if you're going directly like 8 o'clock in the morning, somebody's opening up the Rick House for you, it's like, oh, come on, man.
No,
Then you got to sneak
don't
one.
stand too close.
No, I'm just all over. I'm just like, hey, how's everybody doing? My wife's like,
so that's how you get them to give you distance in a tasting, huh?
You bring one of those the little, I don't even know what they're called. The little like to-go toothpaste or toothbrushes. They're like small. You just kind of do it a really quick thing, and you're like, okay, I'm at lunch. I don't need to worry about it now. I'm gonna eat, but I'm gonna brush my teeth before I eat, and then you're drinking all the rest of the day.
Yep.
Everybody's at home going, ew.
It's not the worst thing that's ever been said on this particular podcast. So you said you keep notebooks, and you said the word colors, right? Are you talking about the color of the whiskey, or are you talking about tasting color?
No, I mean, look, I believe that there are people out there that like get a certain note or something on their palate, and they're just like, why does that taste like blue? I'm not that guy. When I
Okay.
say color, I mean like the color of the overall whiskey, the amber notes, honey, gold, those types of deals. I am the jackass that saw like what was it called? Psalm. There's like 3 versions of Psalm, right? And they're like, it's gold, it's amber with a gold ring. And yes, I did do that for the first like couple of weeks after. And then I'm like, you know what? Nah, that's just gold. We're just gonna call it what it is. So I write all that down.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, I didn't know if you were a synesthesia guy or not. I know a lot of people that are. That's
No,
where
I
you
only
taste
see
the color.
numbers and colors.
Yeah, it's included in that, and I have several friends that are like, this absolutely tastes purple, not like grape purple. It's just the color purple. Like it has nothing to do with what you would think a purple flavor would be or whatever. So you said earlier, there are brands that often, like they came to you and they're like, hey, sorry we didn't get you this time. We're going to try to get you next. What can they do, right? Because like in the panel, one of the things that David talked about was, as a person who built and sold a brand, he wanted to lean into the critics to see if he can get them to change their mind or to kind of become a fan. How do they get there? Like if you're not a fan of the whiskey or even the brand for that matter, like how do they change your mind?
I'm gonna say, take your critiques, take your criticisms, right? Take your notes on what people are saying about your whiskey. There are a lot of companies out there. They're like, we know what we're doing. We have hundreds of people that work for us. We know what we're doing. Okay, great. So then don't be mad if people don't like your stuff. If you think 1 million people love your stuff and only the vocal 100 don't, then good for you, right? But the brands that do really well, the brands that succeed are the ones that are going to go, okay, they said it's a little bit tannic, or they said it reminds them of like copper or metal. There's a metallic note. Let's try to take that out. Let's get it out of there. Let's figure out where along the lines, whether it's the grain during the fermentation or the maturation project process, what is it that's making that note, and let's try to work that out. And you know what? Some of my favorite brands are the ones that will take that and go, thank you for that information. We'll work on it. And then they did. And then it got really, really good. So that's all I'm going to say. Take the critique.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And the fact is, taking that feedback and, taking the feedback, but also like doing something about it, being active around it. And instead of just being so closed off that like, you're just like, nope, this is the greatest stuff that's out there. And again, it is great. It's good. But also at the same time, like, it's not going to be for everybody. Not everything is for everybody. And I think that's some of the biggest misconceptions in this, is that everything's going to be for everybody at some point, and it's not.
Yeah. I've come to the conclusion, like early on in my bourbon drinking world, that I'm not a huge fan of nutty bourbons, right?
Mhm.
And there's a number one culprit out there that we all know makes nutty bourbons.
Yep.
And I was very vocal about, not, I shouldn't say very vocal, but I would say you don't really see many reviews on this particular brand. And it's a big one. I'm not going to name names, but it's a big one. And those that know. But as I grow older and as my palate changes and as my preferences change, their bourbon's actually getting better and better and better.
Mhm.
So there's that too.
Well,
Critique, listen to it, but
yeah, but I also think there's some things, like for me personally, there's when that barley is dialed up, for me personally, there's a, like when I taste that bourbon mid palate, as soon as I get this very either astringent or very tannic note, I am completely out. And there's not anything that anybody can do around that. It's just me personally. And that's, I guess, also knowing and understanding your palate and how that bourbon's going to hit with different flavors, notes, whatever. But I think that's something also to be noted, is that like as much as I would love for them to be able to go and do and change. When that, for me particularly, when a barley in a bourbon is turned up, I'm out. Like it just doesn't sit well in my palate.
See, this is the fun. This is what gets me all geeky and stuff, because when I start talking about like barley and stuff, I'm a huge fan of like American single malts. Not only that, but I had a really good conversation with a master distiller who I never ever thought that I would ever have a conversation with on Instagram. And coolest dude, absolutely. And
Mhm.
him and I had a really good conversation about bourbons with malted barley in it, or with barley in it in general, and that some companies just know how to do it properly, and some don't know how to store or uh, what is it, ferment and distill. Because even if you're distilling barley in an improper way, it is overly tannic
Mhm.
and it's like mildewy on the palate, and some people just don't like it. So I agree with you. There's some whiskeys out there that just do not hit right.
No, I mean, it's the same for me. It's why I try with scotch, and it's just something that, I mean, Daniel from the Whiskey Marketing School, it is his life mission to find a scotch that I will enjoy. And there's been two that have hit, and they're some of the more rarer scotches and most expensive scotches out there that I will never see in my again. I got to taste, but I mean, it's interesting, and to your point, like sometimes it's something as simple as that, and also sometimes it might just be your palate too.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Chrissy's a huge fan of Ardbeg.
No, we'll be so excited, but no,
You're gonna start some sort of a riot because the Ardberg clan will show up. They are
How
they
dare
are
you
a
say
very
Ardbeg,
distinct.
by the way?
They are
No,
a very very distinct group of people.
Look at what's behind me, dang
I
it.
know. I feel like you're channeling Daniel for me.
Are we talking about Riddington?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Oh no, a huge fan. I am a 100% card carrying cult of Ardbeg. I love Ardbeg.
Yeah.
And
See, I was
what
trying
they
to steer
do.
clear of the cult. I didn't want to go that route, But
Wait,
yes,
let me get
that
my
is
card real quick.
You
It's like
can't-
a
you
it's like a
can't,
Justice League.
Say, do you have a brand as well on your shoulder where you had to put a cloak on and go get branded?
That's
Got to
right.
do like one of these things, and we just sit around a fire.
Honestly, without the
Squana.
hat on, you really are gonna fit the bill of like a cultish looking monk. Like it's there. Like, it is a
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And one other thing I learned is that apparently that particular nutty bourbon is for old men, right? So the older you get, the more you like it. So it's just made for old people. Right?
Yeah, it used to be for old granddads. Now it's more for, which is hilarious because I love
How
it.
clever.
Anyway,
That was
Yeah.
very, very clever. So do you ever worry that in the influencer slash content creator, do you think or worry that free bottles are diluting people's perception of what you're putting out? Right, the fact that you've been given a free bottle, you're bought, you're whatever, right? And how do you counteract that?
I almost feel like, and I know I do this. I don't know how everybody does their side of things. I'm very straight to the point. That if someone wants to send me something, in doing that, you're getting me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to. Having that bottle is great. It'll get added to my shelf. But at the same time, it doesn't warrant all rainbow sunshine and puppies.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, I am in the exact same boat. You can talk to any distillery that has sent me a bottle, and that's pretty much how every single one of my communications with them is.
mhm,
Sure, you can go ahead and send me a bottle if you'd like, but I'm letting you know you're going to get 100% my opinion.
right.
Now, with that being said, I will not speak for everybody. Most of the people that were on our panel will tell you 100% that that is the case, right? I mean, that's on the panel, just going through the panel. We had Dave, Zach, we had Nate, Chrissy, myself. I mean, that's Zach's job, right? He writes for Uprock. So he's definitely not going to sugarcoat anything. For guys like me who are not in the industry, who are just a dude in an office with a passion for whiskey, I'm in the same boat, right? But that's not everybody. Like I said, there's no names being called out here. There are people that get free bottles and they just feel, and they approach me with this. They feel like, I didn't like this. What do I say? And I'm like, speak the truth. And they're like, but what if they get mad at me? I'm like, have you seen any of my posts about Buffalo Trace? Like, I'm not saying they're bad whiskey, but some of the business practices, my Lord. So like, do I care if a distillery gets mad at me? No, but I want them to understand where I'm coming from, right? In my opinion, this is how I feel. Let's have an open conversation about it. And sometimes having that negative post or, in your opinion, not so good post opens up a line of dialogue between them that can either help them go on their very merry way. Sorry, I hit my microphone. Go on their very merry way of becoming the brand that everybody wants them to be. I hope that helped. Again, I felt like I was just pontificating. It keeps going and keeps going and doesn't shut the hell up.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that for me, like the answer in that becomes truth becomes the currency that you pay for the bottle effectively with, right? Whether you're gonna like it or dislike it. Sometimes the dislike is more valuable than the like because it's 100% honest at that point, right? People could question if you say, I really like this thing, they can question whether you're telling the truth or not. But if you say you don't like it, why would you lie about not liking a thing? Right?
It's weird, right? That's the weird part. Sorry, go ahead, Chrissy.
No, I was going to say it, but I think people can see through that too, especially those that, have been following, have talked to, conversed with them. I think you can see through that. And, I don't think companies want to put content creators in that position to not be themselves either.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a few brands, and they're not anybody of significance, I would say, not to be rude. I'm not going to say names, but there are brands out there that are like, we would love to send you a bottle. And you're like, great. You're going to get 100% me, like whether I like it, whether I hate it. And they're like, okay. And then they never show up ever again. That's kind of and then all of a sudden you start seeing other people getting that whiskey and you're like, but what happened?
Yeah, that's fair.
There,
that's fair.
right?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's kind of the negating your opinion by just pushing you to the side. And look, all power to them. That's perfectly fine. There's more than enough to go around for everybody. So it is what it is, but it is weird when there's and it's like the echo chamber you were talking about before, John, with, one person says it's good, the next person says it's good, the next person says it's good, and then you're like, but is it really good? So
you got to have somebody that disagrees, right? Like you've got to have that. And this is a really weird correlation, but have you ever seen World War Z, the movie World War Z?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the reason you have the one country that has the wall and they're prepared, and the reason they did that is because they had one person that, like, everybody agrees everything's fine. You got one person, their whole job is to disagree. You got to have a disagreeing voice in
the devil
in a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic movie, but I use that a lot at work. Like whenever people start like, oh, we all agree, I'm like, no, somebody's got to disagree because we got to validate that we're not in an echo chamber.
Right. Well, I'm cool with people that want to play skeptic. Like, I'm right there. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm the skeptic. I'm the guy that goes, is that particular release that good? Let me try it. Like, and then I'll go and I'll find the bottle somewhere, or somebody will reach out to me and go, hey, I found a bottle of it. do you want me to pick it up for you? And I'm like, absolutely, let me get it. So like I have one of those right now sitting on the floor that I just cannot wait to do a review on, because I want to know if the hype is real, right? And if the hype's real, I'll be the first one to admit, hey, I was a little bit skeptical about this. The hype's real. But to be purposefully negative, I don't think anybody needs that, right? We don't need the naysayer for the sake of naysaying, because I think that's also disingenuous. That's the word I was looking for. You definitely don't want that person around just purposefully, for lack of better terms, crapping on everything, right? Or saying like everything's garbage because everybody else likes it. That's, I mean, we have a term for that in the content creator influencer world. They're rage farmers. They're doing it on purpose in order to get you to go, how dare you, click, 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 because they understand that the more you watch the video in rage, you comment, you fight with other people on their post, you are now helping them. So just putting that out there.
So is that what, are you rage farming when you talk bad about Buffalo Trace? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, I truly believe. So I've always said, I love the whiskey they make. I'm trying not to say juice. I love the whiskey they make. There are a few that I'm not the biggest fans of. My main concern with them is
how they do
business practice.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, and I've said it multiple times, the amount of labels that get put out there and other things like that. But I love the whiskey that they make. A matter of fact, if you look at TikTok, when I actually did the like, who cares about BTAC coming out? People were like, everybody cares at BTAC. Right. All the whiskey world cares. They know it's coming. We all know it was coming. It releases in late September, early October every year. Right.
Back to the press release thing. Like, this is not a press release you need to share with anyone, because it largely
and I got a
doesn't
lot
matter.
of DMs for that too, by the way.
Like,
and that's
the press releases whenever brands get bought. Yeah, I'm absolutely sharing that, especially when it's people that I've interviewed. 100%. I'm like, hey, you know, whenever Blue Run got bought, whenever Penelope gets bought, I'm like, yeah, everybody look at this. This is amazing, right? That's
a
cool,
celebration. That's why. Like,
you don't have to advertise BTAC.
Right. Bardstown winning, what was it? Whiskey of the year, or not, Distillery of the year. Right. That's cool. That's awesome. Good for them. High five. Right. That's never we want to share in the joy of the situation. But like for that, I was like, I don't care about the news. We all know the news on that.
Right.
And people mistook that as like, oh, you don't have BTAC on your shelf. And I'm like, yeah, I got a couple bottles. Like, you don't care. You think that Buffalo Trace makes bad whiskey? And I'm like, I never said that. So like, why would you assume that I did? So yes, there's a big difference between like saying Blanton's is garbage. We all know it's not garbage. Now the price is, however.
Yeah. And it's not as good as it was, right? Like, it's getting younger. It is what it is.
Oh, I had a 1984 at Neat in Louisville. That 1984 slapped.
Last spring, I had one from the early 90s, and there's a distinct difference. It is what it is.
Well, at that point in time, some of those, you know, were almost 16 years old. So, vastly different. And that's, you know, and if you think about it, at that point in time, it sat on the shelf for like $34. So
yeah, there was a lot of stuff that like the 21-year-old me walked past whenever I was broke, that I think about now. Like, you know, if I'd have known, I could retire on
you wouldn't
what it's
be
worth.
Broke.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't be broke. But and so you sort of touched on this. You've got one that you really want to review that's sitting right next to you. And I find myself in this position sometimes, right? I don't do a ton of reviews, but occasionally I'll do a review where I find myself in this like Schrodinger's whiskey situation, right? Because there's a particular heritage brand that put out a brand new bottle, which was something unique for what they've done about a month and a half ago. It's really old compared to what they've always put out. And I have the bottle and I don't want to open it because it's both great and terrible at the same time, but I don't know. And so I can live in the believing that it's gonna be great.
Yeah. I wish I could.
Do you catch yourself with that? Do you like catch yourself like, I want it to be good, but I don't know yet.
I want everything to be good. Like, I'm just going to put that out there. I start off opening bottles hoping that it's good. I try not to get my hopes up too high. and I try to try everything at least once, right? Maybe that particular brand's older whiskey, I've tried on 3 separate occasions when it was released, and if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, it wasn't my palate.
Mhm.
So I like when I get bottles, I need to pop them. Like I want to try them. The only
Mhm.
time I don't is when I know that I'm setting them up specifically for like a review, because again, I want it to be somewhat of a fresher bottle. I do pour one thing out of it, but I want it to uh, get its time to get reviewed. So
Mhm.
everything that I have here needs to be popped at some
Mhm.
point, and then I'll just give it to a friend or something if I don't want it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I just had that conversation actually this past weekend, and it instilled a massive argument because the reviews that instantly came out were just not very favorable.
Mhm.
And for me, that particular one was a gateway for me. So I always have a love for.
Mhm.
And so again, I went into it even hearing everything. And I was like, at the end of the day, if this is for me, it's for me. And so, like we were talking about that fact is like, do you roll in and kind of like what we were talking about that echo chamber? And we ended up basically deciding that everybody rolled into that echo chamber. And then we
Yeah.
sat there that night after trying about, I don't know how many bourbons at that point. It was a failed movie night turned drinking night. But went back and revisited it and turned out that those people changed their mind. And
Mhm.
so, it was like, oh, wait a minute. Why did I believe in this? Why did I hear this? But I'm of the philosophy, if it's good for me, it's good for me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not worried about what everybody else is saying around that one. I've gotten to the point where I do get excited about upcoming releases, but I have become more, I would say, more intentional with what
Mhm.
I'm focused on that's going to be released. I would love to be able to have I've gotten out of control. I'm my bottle count is insane, and I'm pushing myself out of my house with bottles. So I had to reel it in. So I become more intentional in what I'm going to hunt, look for, or what's going to be at a bar and taste, and then make that decision. I'm going to go for that bottle.
Mhm.
But for me, I think again, it falls back to that echo chamber. And at the end of the day, if it's for me, it's for me.
Yeah. And I know with this particular offering, there were some bottles that were labeled. They were not officially for sale, but they were floating around Louisville proper back in February, labeled over matured. And I was able to try that and was like, this is fantastic. I am so excited for this particular release. Um, and then it becomes okay, now how does it connect once it actually hits production, right? Because those one off bottles are very different than what comes off the production line sometimes. And sometimes they're exactly the same. Um, but I know I'm bringing a preconceived bias into it because I want it to be good. Like I just want it to be good, no matter what anyone else says. Because I'm with you. Like this is a gateway bourbon for me as well, right? Like it's the first one that I ever had, multiple bottles of, and you go visit the distillery and it's
Mhm.
beautiful and all of these different things. And before what it looks like now, we're talking like in the early 2000s or the
Yeah.
mid 2000s when it was still very factory like. It's Kentucky. It is what it is. But yeah, Schrodinger's whiskey is a real thing for me. There are certain releases that I'm like, if I don't open it, it's both great and terrible at the exact same time, and I don't have to. Like, I can live in the ignorance of what's going to happen.
I feel like there needs to be like a logo for that. Like it's like a cat in a bottle.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
you go ahead and make a shirt. You're the shirt guy, right? Like you can get a shirt.
I don't really do logos. But no, that would be kind of fun to do like a tater sticker with that.
Yeah. That would.
Well, honestly, like if you got the
Nobody can
right
use that
bottle that
now.
no one's ever going to actually crack, and they're just going to continually flip, it's a perfect label for it, right?
Right?
Mhm.
Whoever does that needs to pay all royalties to John.
I don't think there's anything unique. I've heard other people refer to it, but I'll take credit for it today. I
Absolutely.
don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So part of the conversation at the festival was around paying influencers, right? And some brands do, some brands don't. Do you? Where do you fall? Is this a thing that should be done? Shouldn't be done? How do you think?
I mean, I'll happily answer. I don't care.
Mhm.
It's just me, like me as a person. Um, do I think that there should be some type of how do I put this? Do I think there should be some type of gain for somebody that's out there that is already like content rich and just like I'm going to be pushing a whole bunch of content out there. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a
Mhm.
problem with it as long as the person's being authentic in their approach of how they're doing it. Now, there are good ways of doing it and there's are bad ways of doing it, right? If you're saying, should a company approach somebody and say, "Hey, we have this whiskey. We want you to give me a review on this whiskey, but it needs to be favorable and we're willing to give you X amount of dollars." Um, no. No, thank you. Have a great day would be my approach to that. If you're telling me that I have to give you a favorable review because you want to pay me, no, thank you. It goes the same way with the giving a bottle or a sample for review.
Mhm.
Um, no, thank you. Go that way. Now, if it just so happens to be a company that I've worked with in the past or a company that I've enjoyed in the past, and they're like, we would like for you to do like a campaign style type deal where you're giving us a little bit about the distillery or maybe about the history of the brand or, what this type of whiskey is. And I already know that I enjoy it. Then what is the harm in that? To
Mhm.
have a little bit better quality content that's a little bit thought out instead of just, my usual garbage. I don't have a problem with somebody being paid for anything that they do, but they have to enjoy it. Like that's just the thing for me. I don't
Mhm.
care what you do or where you're going with it, as long as you authentically enjoy it or you want to highlight it for a reason, then do you. But
Mhm.
don't just get money for it and say everything's great.
Mhm.
That's disgusting in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's something for me, I don't participate in. I wouldn't participate in because it takes away from me. Um, and what I have put out there this entire time, like when you're putting stuff out there, you're sharing a piece of yourself. You're open, you're vulnerable, and it's something that I wouldn't personally partake in. Like Ryan said, maybe if it was a campaign or something along those lines, but um and I can see people kind of getting like sucked into that component of it. But like you're doing yourself more of a disservice than anything. And how are you really helping by putting that out there in the long run as well?
Yeah, and this is sort of the way I viewed it, and I'm trying to frame the question as well as possible, so it doesn't lead you to an answer in one direction or the other. But I think if you're building a marketing campaign, how are you any different than any other marketing partner, right? Like if it's an actual marketing campaign, you don't even necessarily have to like it at that point. If you're saying, hey, this is what it looks like in cocktails, and this is what the brand is, and you're doing education, right? You're doing education on the brand, and you're never taking the position of I like this. You're no different than any other marketing partner that would exist at that point, right? Like any
Oh yeah.
PR agency.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
well, you can.
think. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
No, I
I'm
was
good.
gonna say, well, you can kind of see those
Mhm.
those kind of how do I put it? Those styles of content, right?
It's like a
Like
lifestyle. It's almost like lifestyle
it's
content at
more of a
that point.
lifestyles post, right? It's kind
Mhm.
of like a scan in or scan out or just a regular type of everyday run of the mill type content.
Mhm.
If somebody doesn't have a passion for it or an enjoy of it, I think that that would be the overall tell. Like
Mhm.
just for somebody saying like, you should try these guys out. Well, why? You didn't even give me your opinion
Mhm.
on it. Like you didn't even say anything. right? We see that a lot too in the influencer world where somebody's like gifted a bottle. And instead of saying something along the lines of like, it wasn't my cup of tea, but maybe you might enjoy it, they'll say, it was light and great for cocktails. And you're like,
Yeah.
ah,
Great for cocktails is the place for all the bad whiskey, right? Like
I
that's
saw
where
what you
people are
did
going.
there. Oh, 100%. But I'm not going to yuck other people's yums when it comes to stuff like this, because there are a lot of brands out there that people really do enjoy, right? And and as much as anybody would say, like, I definitely would not, if Lux Row, and I'm a huge, like, I mean, look at all this Blood Oath and Lux Row, and I love everything, well, except for maybe the Ezra Brooks 99, I wasn't a fan of. But if they were like, hey, Blood Oath, we want to do like a year campaign on Blood Oath, I would be like, really? I would probably geek out first. Like,
Right.
are you gonna fly me out so that I can meet John Rempe, please? Like, but no, like they have to have a genuine passion for it. Like, if it's not, and they're just doing it for the money, then screw those people. Nobody needs that.
Yeah, and that's the world where your passion and money merge together, and it's a very, very rare thing, right? Like if Blood Oath reaches out to you. And then I think this is another thing, and we talked earlier about, folks that are brand new to the market. Probably another place where you can justify paying an influencer or content creator is if you have no idea how to market what you're doing, how to build campaigns, how to do things. They may not be actively doing anything, but they make great consultants, great people that can inform you, like, this is how, if I was a brand new brand and I didn't understand how TikTok worked, I would absolutely reach out to Ryan Mills and say, how can I make this work for me? Right. Like, and so now I can pay you, and you may not be a direct influencer, but you're helping me understand the algorithm, so to speak.
Yeah. Don't call me for that. Look, this is the thing. This is like I said in the very beginning. Like, don't read into followers and all the other stuff. It's really based off of. Here's what I like to say. I like to make content. Like, I enjoy doing educational pieces. I enjoy making weird things. Like, I don't know, entertainment pieces. Right. I enjoy doing the reviews that I do because they're just. I don't know why people enjoy it, but people enjoy it. And that's the thing. But if you want to consult, hey, I'll give you my email address. I'm more than happy to do that. Because I actually enjoy more consulting with other content creators more. Like, I enjoy when people come to me and they're like, we just don't know how you do it. And I kind of look at them and I go, I don't know how I'm doing it either. I'm just having fun. Have fun with it. Don't look at this. Don't look at that. Stop worrying about X, Y, and Z things. So, yeah, I mean, I am never going to tell anybody you shouldn't get paid for a thing that you enjoy to do, but definitely don't get paid for the wrong reasons to tell people that something is what it's not. Because that's, like I said, that's gross. Just don't do that.
Well,
I think you go ahead.
I was going to say, but I also think too, if that's something that you want to progress into as well, I don't think that there's anything wrong in doing that, like in making a career out of that. At the end of the day, like if that's something that drives you and you're passionate about, then that's perfect. But don't do it just for the sake of doing it and because cash is being thrown your direction either.
Yeah, and I think Ryan, what you kind of touched on, what you do is more counterculture than it is, direct mainstream. This is how TikTok works, and that's why it works, right? And so, if you're the right brand, and counterculture is a little weird because that's what like punk bands used to call themselves back in the '80s, and I don't think that you're quite a punk vibe, but you said it yourself, the weird. It is the weird side.
The macabre. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird side. Everybody enjoys their own little thing and having fun with it. So that's all I'm saying. Here's the deal. Don't put yourself up as like, I want to be an influencer, because then it's just
there's no guarantee in it.
It's cringe.
Well, it's cringe, but there's no guarantee. Like you don't, and I think that's what I love about the fact, and again, to your point, Ryan, is that we get so hung up on numbers and comments and all of that stuff. You go out there, and if it's something that makes you happy, just go and do it for yourself more than anything else. And the stuff, people will follow, people will gravitate to you. There's no rhyme or reason as to what hits better. And I've seen it. I mean, I have been around on Instagram since, mid 2000s. And like, I've seen trends come and go. I've seen people come and go through that. And some things have hit and then they fizzled. And then some have just kind of stayed around. So you can't go into it going, this is what I'm going to be, because you're just going to get frustrated over the fact that it's not progressing in the way that you want it to.
Hence why I hate the term influencer.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So
influencer to me is the person that's like getting paid to like be disingenuous. Like, come on out to this wonderful beach resort. It's fantastic. Like, what?
I will get paid to go to the beach. So if anyone
if the beach resort wants to call Chrissy, go right ahead.
please.
So yeah, for the multitude of beach resorts that are listening to this particular thing, this is it, right? Like here, yeah, I'll give you an email address. We could
wait. This isn't the beach resort podcast.
Yeah, you didn't know? Yeah, like there's ocean sounds in the background. Without a doubt. But yeah, and there are people, that's what they set out to do. There are a certain set of things that you can do that can ensure that you can get some degree of attention, right? Like, it's really not hard to buy followers. It's really, really not. They're cheap, and it's not a good way to really measure if they're real or not. And, there's a bunch of stuff out there, but it eventually comes through in the content you create. Right.
It comes through the content you create, and also with how the algorithm works now, it is so smart. So if you are buying followers, you will be buried. Mm-hmm. It is one that they don't want that at all. They are looking more, and they're going to push through more people that aren't doing that than are doing that. So buying followers is not the end all be all answer.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok, Instagram. I mean, I fight with the algorithm for work, aside from doing my own thing under a little dab of bourbon, but I fight constantly and trying, like, okay, what's not happening this time? What do I have to do to hit in that regard? Like, so I think that's one thing that most people, the big misconception is like, well, I'll just buy followers and I'll just become more and more popular. And it's the opposite effect.
Yeah, and there's a handful of podcasts and whiskey folks that's how they started, 5 or 6 years ago, is purchasing followers. And I'll admit, I'll be the one that'll say it here. 2 years ago, I bought some TikTok followers, but they were not for me. I have my wife's friend is, she's 40 something and has a teenage daughter. And she told her daughter, she's like, I'm going to get on TikTok and I'm going to get more followers than you. Just like kind of messing with her. And my wife told me about it, and I absolutely that afternoon went online and bought 500 followers to go follow her. But it was a website that was going to slowly trickle them up. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my wife I did it. I didn't tell this lady I did it. And then, 2 weeks later, she's sitting at 1,000 followers and her daughter's got 100. And I just listened to the feedback, and it was worth every dollar, and it was cheap. It was super, super cheap. So it was a spite purchase dealing with teenage kids. That's all it was. But
oh God,
there are folks that'll do that. That's a definite path that people can go down if they want to.
And there are people that are out there just full blown admitting it. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like I said, on TikTok, especially, TikTok is wild, and you can usually tell. Like, you can look at how many people are following somebody based off of their view counts and their comment counts, engagement essentially.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you have 40 something thousand followers, but your videos are only reaching 600 people a video. Right. That's a little weird. Yeah. So it's noticeable, trust me. But also the algorithm is also just a bear. So who knows? Especially with TikTok, who knows? Yeah. Instagram's more consistent anyway.
Yeah.
I I stay there. I've dabbled here and there on TikTok. I get a lot of information off of TikTok, but I follow a bunch of people, but I think I had one video very, very early on, when I was living in Kansas City, and it was walking downstairs to that one thing. Everyone has that one thing in their house, blah, 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 blah.
Oh yeah.
And I think it hit like 250,000 views. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and then like, it just went, wah, 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 from that point. So I was like, I'm not even like, Instagram is enough for me at this point in time. So like, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So what do you think there's anything out there that's gonna like, is TikTok going to die eventually, or is it here? Like, is it the replacement? Because Twitter's dwindling the way it is. Nobody really cares about threads, and you're left with like Instagram and TikTok, and those are your two options.
Oh man.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I learned so much off of TikTok.
Oh yeah.
TikTok's addictive. I think that's the number one thing. Like, don't get me wrong when I say this too. It's not like I truly 125 million% care, but TikTok's entertaining. Like, if I look right now at my screen time, it's probably unhealthy for a 30-something, 39-year-old man to be on TikTok just watching videos. And you learn so many cool things from these short form videos. That's where I think it's essentially going to. Don't get me wrong, long form video is definitely fun, but I think attention spans are a little bit less these days. And having that, minute to 3 minute kind of hit of, I just want to get some information out, get it done. I think that's kind of here to stay. So that's why like reels have become more popular. I think that's why, YouTube's really focusing on their shorts. So it's kind of, that's all because of TikTok. And the app just keeps growing and growing and growing from what I see or hear, daily on the news and other organizations within TikTok. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think it's just going to morph. I think everything's going to kind of change and be relatively similar. I don't know what the next big thing is. That's the fun part.
I will tell you though, like for me, I love TikTok the way that it is. I hate reels on Instagram. Like,
I hate making reels.
But I'm with you. I've done it myself, but for me, it's like, I want one thing on Instagram, kind of do its thing. It's there for its reason. Whether it's, pictures or a little short, like less than a minute clip. But TikTok, I'm engulfed in TikTok. Like, and I learned so much. And, one day you can be on the political side of TikTok. The next day you can be on witchy TikTok or Taylor Swift TikTok. Like, and it's,
Are we all on Taylor Swift
I
TikTok?
was going to say, like, are you looking at my feed? Like political, witches, Taylor Swift. I don't know, like people hurting themselves.
Is anybody on UFO TikTok all of a sudden? Like, what is happening?
I know.
No, I haven't ended up there yet.
I talked about Nick Bosa the other day, and all of a sudden he starts popping up on my TikTok. I'm like, what is happening?
If I have to hear one more thing about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, though, I'm a rage quit. So
no, it's the best thing ever. It is a true live rom-com unfolding before our eyes.
And I am perfectly fine with that. I'm so tired of seeing it from 17 million angles.
Listen,
right now I'm going to have all the Swifties coming after me. I like Taylor Swift, everybody. I just don't want to hear about it anymore.
Well,
this relationship may save the NFL. Like just to be real, because like viewership was on a significant downward trend, and I may have ended up in a fight with my spouse over it because I was like, I wonder if the NFL like approaches Taylor Swift and was like, we'll give you $20 million to fake a short-term relationship with somebody because it's going to bump our viewers like that.
No.
And she was like, how could you do that? They're in love. All right.
How dare you?
How dare you? They are in love. I will say I am a little sad not living in Kansas City at the moment because
you'd have a shot at being able to go. Yeah.
Of seeing Taylor Swift in the wild.
Yes. Inviting her into the store I worked at. Like, oh God, they would have been great.
I'd fangirl. I don't care what anybody says. If I saw Taylor Swift in public, I'd be like, "Oh my god, what do I do?"
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with
do
my
you
hands.
do the fangirl thing, or do you like pretend like you're cool about it, so that way you're the
No,
guy that didn't
girl
freak
out
out
all day.
Yeah, I can't help it. I would geek out about random things, so it's
Mhm.
perfectly fine.
I would fangirl out. I fanned out at the movie theater over the weekend, handing out friendship bracelets to everybody. So
Nice.
Listen, it's a solid 3 hours of just pure entertainment. Like, the looking at it from a tech perspective, like, just like, because I'm a guy who, like, likes sound and lights and used to do audio things for bands, and I'm watching this and I'm like, what it takes to make all of this work is amazing. Of course, I'm sitting there. I mean, I didn't go alone. Like, I'm not sitting there with a bunch of 10-year-old girls. It was my wife and my 2 daughters. Like, we're sitting there. I look appropriate, not like a creepo. But nah, it's fantastic.
They doing the playground run through. They're like, "Who is this guy with?"
Look,
okay, his wife and daughters. We got this. Okay, we're good.
yes, absolutely. I mean, if you go into that theater with your daughter and you look and there's one guy sitting by himself, you're
And he
waiting for
looks
that
just
door
like
to
he
open
was
up and
just
his
like-
family to come in. Like, why are you here? Even though it's a movie theater, he should be able to be there, but also a little weird.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't give out the ending. Sorry.
Yeah, I absolutely did look at him and say, is there like, is this like a Marvel movie where there's like post credits extra stuff? Like,
I did the same thing. I
Is
sat
there
there
an
and
encore?
everyone's leaving, and I turned to my one friend and I was like, well, you know how in a Marvel movie, and she looks at me and she goes, those words have never come out of my mouth, nor have I ever gone to a Marvel movie. No.
yeah, my wife did look at me and say, like, no, it's
I
time
was
to
the
leave.
one. I was like, we can't leave yet, guys.
There's gonna be more. There's a sequel. Like, what is the sequel? I don't know.
There's something.
It's so good. It's so good listening to you guys geek out on this.
Did you think this was going to be a part of the conversation at all?
I mean, however, she is one of the greatest influencers of our time. So
in the world,
In the
between
world.
her
Period.
and Beyonce, they could sell anything.
yeah.
That's what it, so listen, all the whiskey companies out there, what you need to do is get Beyonce or Taylor Swift to talk. Thank you. I'll take a consulting fee. But
They don't.
What
She
you
doesn't
need
even
to
have to
do-
talk about it. She just has to be seen holding a bottle.
Seen.
That's all
That's
that
it.
has to happen
That's
at this
it.
point.
Now this is the scary part. We're gonna see her like walking around with like Fireball or Jameson Orange, and we're all gonna go,
No.
Malort is making a
No.
run for it. They like, we got this.
Jetson's on the phone right now.
No.
We got 87 cents. That's what our marketing budget is right now.
And how much money can we pay to get Travis Kelce to be traded to the Chicago Bulls or the Chicago Bulls? Jesus, the Chicago Bears.
I mean, I think it would probably work for either
Okay.
one of those things.
It could work.
This got
The
weird.
Bulls. I don't even know where to go from there. I don't even know where to go.
We're already off the rails, everybody.
I mean, Taylor Swift, there's Taylor Swift. There's
That's
Yeah,
usually the
it's-
conversation.
nothing weird about that.
Yeah. After
No,
a few
it-
whiskeys, I mean, that's the like natural course of the conversation,
I mean, I'm surprised we didn't talk about her sooner, honestly.
right?
Honestly, I should have led with that. Realistically, if I wanted the algorithm to work in my favor, more Taylor Swift content.
We just need to say that
That's
a
the
few more
answer.
times.
Yeah, so like just tag it, hashtag Taylor.
That's what you do.
Mhm.
They're like, today on the Embellish Pod, we're
Hashtag.
talking with Chrissy, a little dab of bourbon, Ryan,
Mhm.
that one dude, Ryan, and as we talk about Taylor Swift and whiskey.
Yep.
You'll get the Travis Kelce fans because it says whiskey, and you'll get all the Swifties because it says Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to have to be a Tennessee whiskey now that I think about it, because she's a Tennessee girl, right? So she's going to have to find a Tennessee brand that wants to partner with her.
Old
Yeah.
Dominic. They'd be great.
Oh, it'd be perfect.
They have good whiskey.
They do. That'd be perfect.
go.
At KBF, let's just go ahead and say this.
Mhm.
At KBF, it would have been good to have more of a longer form conversation. I'm pretty sure that would have been absolutely bonkersly boring for people in the crowd. But I think that this is kind of a nice, healthy conversation to have with people, just random people,
Mhm.
right? with as far as what you do in the world today, the kind of fun that you like to have on the internet, and what different styles of content creators, influencers, whatever the case may be, are out there. As long as they can give honest answers, like, it's a great conversation to be had. I'm pretty sure I had 2 or 3 more things in my head to actually go over, but at this point, who cares?
Well, and I think that's, to your point, that's one thing that we did discuss at the KBF, is the fact that, is there enough space for content creators, or is it too saturated? And I think that there's enough space for everybody. Everybody brings something so different, so uniquely them. And I think that's what continues to, like, we're bonded over the whiskey. It's something for us to all bond over. We have things that we're going to gravitate towards more or less. For me as a female, there are things that I definitely gravitate to more versus other things. And there are some things that, as a female working in a very male dominated industry, that for me, I have a tendency to back off of. If you are comfortable doing what you're doing, that is great. But I am also of the mindset of some things are a little bit diminishing to, how do I say this? And again, it's no offense to any particular male or female who would like to show a little extra. It's not for me, but more power to you. But I also, along with several others in the industry, also feel it's women in the industry, we don't have to lean on that. We can lean forward with our knowledge, with content that doesn't have to go in that direction. Am I making sense? I'm trying to be very
does
about this.
You're trying to be very political about this, and I'll recap it this way.
And I know I'm going to probably get a lot of slack on this, because I have.
There's like 9 people that are going to listen to this. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
No,
but
we're talking Swiftie.
What I was going to say is, so my wife went with me to the festival, and we went to the barrel event. We went somewhere else in between there and going to the Broken Barrel event, and we were in a particular liquor store in downtown Louisville. And my wife, she knows a little bit about whiskey, but is just not super invested. But she's fantastic with the camera. Very artistic. And so I was like, hey, I want you to snap some pictures. You bring your SLR, you shoot some shots, whatever. We're standing in this liquor store, and as we leave, she was like, you realize like how Mojo Dojo Casa House that particular place was, right? Like, you realize that. No, I hadn't. I had not even crossed my mind the amount of burgundies and hunter greens and wood shelves and metal pipes that there were in the particular place I was. And so it put me in a mindset for the entire event. And this is something, and I said this, I did a recap of the festival for an episode a couple weeks ago. And I think the thing that's missing from the marketing material for that particular event is the diversity that was actually at the event, right? Mm-hmm. So if you go and look at it, it's not quite as, it doesn't appear as friendly as it might have been. I did notice there were significantly more women in attendance this year than there were last year, and I've been the last 3 years, and last year was better than the year before. So it is a growing segment, but there's this huge gaping kind of missing piece of the whiskey marketplace around women, in my perspective. And I hate doing that as I'm a guy telling a woman that there's a missing gaping hole in the market, right? But that's like 44, 46% of the marketplace is women. Who's marketing to them?
Who's marketing correctly to them?
Yeah.
Who's at all? No, I'm just saying at all who's marketing to them.
Well, I mean, there's a few.
Take it and reduce it down to who's doing it well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can go that route.
Right.
Because there are a few out there that are marketing. They're just doing it really bad.
Right. Like, yes. And that's a thing that I want to work, that I'm trying to work on right now for a much longer off episode, because I had several friends just like, okay, go talk to your wife who's not a whiskey person. Walk around your shelves and look at things, and tell me which bottle comes off as not overtly masculine, not built for a guy to pick up and display proudly on his shelf or whatever. And it's staggeringly low what doesn't come off that way, right? Yeah, it's. I say that with this floating in here.
It definitely is low. There are a few companies that do it well as far as like the look. They're more of a how do I put it? Because they don't come across as overly masculine, right?
Mhm.
There's not like a tone to the way that it looks. But then, like I said, there's a couple out there that are just like,
Put pink on it.
yeah, like I
Put
don't
pink on it, and it's a women's brand now.
right. But
That-
yeah, it gets to be.
I'm not saying
it-
that's the right choice. That's the answer for a lot of marketing companies.
right.
Let's put pink on it.
Exactly.
Right.
So it is definitely something that I think more companies need to come to the table and kind of figure out, right? Like it's just something that needs to be done. And I don't want to say it like as a dude, as that one dude, but like it is definitely something that needs to be talked about. It is definitely something that needs to be talked about by the brands, for the brands, and bring in the people that should be telling them how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think that's something that also goes as far as like your content creators is, being more women focused in that regard. I was the only woman that was on that panel. I'm the only woman here this evening. And, it is something again and because I'm in it on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I can tell you incredible stories from, even working in a retail store, being called sweetheart and told me, hey, honey, do me a favor and go downstairs and grab me that bottle of Buffalo Trace or whatever, and it's very interesting in that regard still that we are here. And John, to your point, this year, when I saw it, there were way more women that were involved. But what I did see though, running through on Instagram was not those women represented. Mm-hmm. Very, very little were those women represented in stories or reels other than the female content creators that I follow, which I found very interesting and thought that was something that's like, it's one of those things you put in the back of your mind and like, okay, like, so we have progressed in the fact that we saw more women at KBF, but still the market side of that is still way back over here.
It's not there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it feels like a lot of places attempt is either make it pink or talk about cocktails. And those are the only two ways to market to women specifically. And, not trying to co-opt your story or what you've experienced, but I was at a tasting event in Lexington back in the spring, and Peggy No Stevens is leading the tasting for us, which is an amazing experience. And there is a gentleman that's sitting, 4 seats away from me that proceeds to try to explain to her how tasting should work. And
he knew who she was going to this event?
Absolutely knew. And I don't know what my reaction is supposed to be, but my reaction was to get up and walk out of the room for a few minutes because I couldn't like.
It's the reaction that we just gave.
Well, there were people sitting around me that were doing that, but I had to leave because I wanted to say something, but also I'm not trying to save her from anything. I'm just, what do I do here? And back to the anchor man. I don't know what to do with my hands. So I'm just going to leave the room for a few minutes and I'm gonna come back in and we're going to bring that's what it was. You're correct. Ricky Bobby, not Anchorman. But did have the conversation later on. I'm like, hey, that's a pretty gutsy move to try to talk to a Titan.
Right.
Would you have done that if it was a guy?
That's a weird place to be in. I can tell you that much. That would have to, I don't know what I would do either in that situation. I would want to be the guy that goes, hey buddy,
shut the fuck up. That's
right.
that's what I. That's like what
just
I wanted
quiet,
to say.
Like, she knows more than you, and then like just sit back down.
All of us. There's no one in this building that knows anything more.
The
Oh, I'm literally it's very God, it's very rare that I'm without words. That is one that just
wild, right?
wow. I mean, that's why I asked, did he know who she was? Like, because like, how do you, and especially being in bourbon or have any type of understanding of bourbon, how do you not know who Peggy No Stephen is and the influence that that woman has? I mean, she is one of my absolute like idols. I mean, first time I met her, I bawled like a baby. Because when I first came on the scene, I was cooking with bourbon, writing recipes about it, and people were telling me that I was completely and totally fucking nuts and that it was a stupid idea. I should never do that because no one's going to cook with their bourbon. And I was like, I grew up in a big Italian family, and in my family, you cooked with what you drank. So my grandmother was from the South. She would cook with bourbon. She would brine her chicken with bourbon. She would do all of those things. And when I first met Peggy, it was like that, like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can. And she solidified that for me. And again, just the amount of influence she has had on distilleries and brands and just the oh wow, the audacity.
The audacity.
I'm like, my mind.
That's what's written right here is the audacity.
All three of us were on the same page on that one.
that when you asked what would have a person do that, that's the answer is the audacity.
Pure ignorance of not understanding what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
Like,
but that speaks to very, very common things. And I had a conversation with Jackie Zykan. It was a very similar conversation. This is not uncommon. This may be a loaded question. What can we as male influencers do to change this? Can we? Should we? I don't know.
I can speak on that actually, because I had a situation to where when I was working in Kansas City, I was the whiskey buyer for my store. It's a very prominent store in the area, one of the largest ones. And my rep brought me a product, and I simply just took a picture and posted it and said, what a way to start the week. And from there, a slew of it got to a point where it was just very overwhelming. But that right there is what men can do. There were men who came out, men who surprised me, who just always try and stay neutral because, again, it's kind of that thing. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to do, what to say in that regard. But it was because I had several men who came out first to speak out against it and say, dude, this is disgusting. We don't need to go down this path. We don't need to speak to women this way. We don't treat women this way. We do not. And it was overwhelming in the most amazing way how the whiskey community came together around that. And it's because of the fact, and Nate and John from Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Nate from
I saw a couple of the bigger, at the time, the bigger guys, right, in the community. They all jumped on it. It was great. I know that's where I think the first situation where I was introduced to you
whiskey
in general.
Yeah. Is because of that.
Was because of that. And I was like, I don't know who this person is. But to see what you did in response was like, hell yeah. And just, it was an instant follow at that point. Because of that, my wife, Chrissy, which is hilarious, my wife, short Italian woman, takes no crap from anyone. And that's including any dude, any woman, any dog or cat or whatever. But she'll snap back, no issues. I'm a little bit more calculated in my response to things, but I love it. I love seeing somebody just go, fuck you. right?
Yeah,
And
but you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the beauty behind all of that. I never said one word.
No.
Never said one word. All I did was took his words and shared it. And that was it. And I think that was much more powerful than me coming out on the attack. There was obviously a lot of stuff on the back end that people don't know that transpired from that. But it was because of Nate, Whiskey with a View, John, Dad's drinking bourbon. Those two gentlemen kicked it off in a way that just I will forever be indebted to them because and just hold such a special place in my heart because they stood out against that. And there were many people. Now, this was a great example also for a brand to be able to like lob this up out of the park, understanding our consumers today are so much more educated than they ever have been in the entire time that whiskey has been around, and that you could have easily just that ball was thrown at you, could have knocked it right out of the park and engaged everybody in a very meaningful way. So it was a really great opportunity and learning lesson for any company, but to take it to the extent that that guy took it. But the beauty was to see the community come around that. And the majority of that were men. Women too, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to discredit the women that came out of it, but it's those moments, and I think it's how you step up to the plate to do it. You know, like both of you had said, like, oh, I'm not here to save anybody. And that's fair. I don't want anyone to save me. But also at the same time, I think it is important that when you see something wrong, you just come out and be like, dude, that's no, we don't do that.
have their back.
Yeah.
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 Be a supporter. Be a partner in the situation, not a.
Well, you're being an ally, essentially, you know, like you're just an ally in that moment. And, you know, you wouldn't want your wife to go through that, your daughters to go through that. So I think it's just something as simple as that. That was long-winded, but yes.
No,
It's a good conversation to
answer.
have.
Yeah.
It's a great conversation to have, to be completely and utterly honest, because there are situations where it does, at least on, I'll just say on my level, my feelings towards it is like, I don't want to come across as like a, what is it, savior complex or a
Yeah, the white
knight.
savior.
Like, I don't want that. I want to be the ally in the situation. I would like to be somebody who's got your back to say whatever you want or do whatever you want. So it's a good conversation to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I had that was that particular situation for you was like very early in what I was doing, and I was so late to that story. Like it had all because that's how unattached I was to social media at that point in time. Like the story was over by the time I knew it was a story. I was like, oh.
Oh, it got
Wow,
even
this
picked
whole
up.
thing happened. I should really pay more
Oh,
attention, right?
I mean, it was wild the way that it got picked up. I had people coming out of, I mean, I couldn't keep up. I ended up like, and it was also right in the middle of, while this was going on, there was, like I said, there was stuff going on behind the scenes that was happening with this particular story. But also, I was in the middle of getting ready to move to Louisville. My dog had died, and trying to find a job. It was like all of these things, like just like compounding on each other. And then, like when I got to Louisville, I had to go dark. I just needed to decompress, and I needed a break because it just was so much. But at the same, like I even went back to people. I made sure. And there are people still to this day that I go back to because some people are like, well, you never replied back to me. You never said anything. And it wasn't from a lack of not wanting to. It just became such a trigger, even seeing a DM, because there were so many from his side that had also come after me, which was very scary and very real, because that guy put my information out there. People knew where I worked. He specifically told them where to find me, gave them my name. I had to have security at work. It was a wild, and that aspect of it people didn't know. So like, I went back to people specifically, said I didn't, because I wanted to thank people for supporting me. Like I didn't feel I did anything that was so wild. You know what I mean? I just brought his crappy behavior to the forefront. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I did anything that was so like, wow, oh my gosh. But
It wasn't egregious. Like what they did was.
right.
All you did was pull back the curtain to something that was already
Right.
there, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't anything else
Off
that's
above
out there, and
post.
that's maybe a good vein to be in. Is like there's this other side of being in Ryan's position and your position, where there's like this human element of exposing yourself to the public and potentially creating danger for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
working
mean, I
something
just deal with
fun.
trolls. I don't deal
You
with
just do
that. Like I deal with trolls, and if that was the situation, like I could understand the, how would I put, like a safety aspect to it. Like it's just that's overwhelming. Like where somebody wants to essentially like dox you on the internet because you went, this is how my day started. Like completely innocuous. Made it a big deal. Like
Yeah.
they could have just scroll, move along.
1000%. 1000%.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah. But the point of that is it's just having that conversation. And, I think even asking a female, like, what feels good? Like, as far as like to support you, how can I help support you in that? Like, what is going to make you feel okay in me speaking up and speaking out? I didn't, in that situation, it just happened very fast. But I've had, men in my life who've asked, because they know, like Ryan, like your wife, I'm a short Italian lady from New Jersey, and I go 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. And
Jersey in the house.
I'm full, when that switch flicks, that's it. Like, but, and, it's just asking, I think getting curious and just asking.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing ever is whenever I see something that's relatively, I'll just say sexist. Just a swift comment, but it's always just no. Like you're not going to come on my comments. You're not going to come on my comments and be just a complete dick in any way, shape, or form. I don't care who you are. Like it could go one way or the other. It's just a simple no. And if you keep it up, I mean, there's a block button for a reason.
Yep.
Right.
It's very easy.
Oh,
But
very.
Unbelievable. I didn't know you were from Jersey. Nice.
Yeah.
So is it Taylor ham or pork roll?
Taylor ham.
Yeah.
We already had this conversation because I posted one and you literally were like, oh, it's pork roll. No.
I know. My wife has no idea what pork roll or Taylor ham is because she's from Long Island. So
Oh, that's
I'm from Kentucky and I love food, and I'm writing down what this is so I know. Like there's a Google that's happening later on. So
Listen,
John, I'm telling you right now, you would love it.
It is the best thing ever. Taylor ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. Mwah, chef's kiss. It is the best thing. And the best thing is I can get it here in Kentucky, which is so incredible.
Where in Kentucky? Like what, a BJ's wholesale or whatever it's called?
Are you ready? Are you ready for this? A liquor store.
What? Yeah, see, the podcast has gone off the rails because that's interesting.
That's not off the rails. This is content for us. Let's go. What is this?
This is the most incredible. Like I was blown away. I was just walking by, and it's just like it's a roll, and I'm like walking by like their meat and cheese section, and all of a sudden I look and I'm like, well, ain't that some shit right there? Like,
bought immediately. Like I'm
I was like, maybe this is a limited thing. So I bought like 8 of them. Like, because I took everything they had, and then it's something that they continually carry.
John's over there like, what is
What
Taylor.
is
No, I'm already.
Taylor?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a
Look.
picture of it right at this exact.
I'm
moment.
gonna try my best. It's just it's a cured ham. It's a cured like meat product is probably the best way of putting it.
And
Yeah,
no one knows
this
what
is
really it's
fancy
made
spam.
of.
I know what this is. This is fancy spam.
My wife says spam, and I take offense to that. But
I
it's
agree. It's offensive.
it's not wet. It's
No.
cured, so it's
Right,
got, like,
because it's not in a can that's meant to be shipped to Hawaii.
you have to take the plastic off of it, then you have to rip it out of its canvas, and then
Yeah.
you have to slice it, not thin. I'm a thick guy. Like, you have to slice it thick.
But you have
Right.
to cut 4 corners on it. You have to.
It has to look
Make it look
a
like an iron
4-leaf
cross.
clover.
Yes.
I don't know where that goes, but yes, because if you don't, when you fry it, it bubbles up.
It does. It becomes like a little pepperoni cup, and it's not.
Yeah,
I'm
not
telling you.
Yeah, no,
It
like we
once
fried
hit
bologna
Kentucky,
for a
it's
long
big.
time. Like I know how to.
No,
cook
it's not
this.
bologna. It is.
not.
But I'm saying it's the same principle. How you have to cut it is how you have to cut bologna
like,
if you're going to fry it.
Oh yeah.
Like, I know
Every
it's
time I'm
not
in Jersey.
bologna, but it's the exact same problem. It's either thin cut or it's thick cut. It's you got to cut the slices in it so it doesn't cup up and only cooking the edges, and then on the other side in the
Yes,
I don't know
sir.
what to call the other side of it without sound terrible. So just the other side where it's bowled up, right? Because you get
So
the
then
edges
you
on one
have
side.
to
and
be
the other.
South Jersey. Mid to
What?
South Jersey. You're from mid to South Jersey?
Yes, I was. We were. Oh God, where was I? It's been a very long time. I was born in Jersey. My parents are from Jersey. I go back every now and then because it's one of my markets that I have to travel to. But yes, mid to South Jersey. Like, I have family in oh my God, something township. I can't remember the name of it now. They're gonna kill me for this, by the way. For not remembering. Oh my goodness. Something with an H. I can't remember. But my aunts and uncles used to live like in Bradley Beach and all that jazz.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
No,
Good
see, I
God.
grew up in the northwest part of Jersey, and it was Taylor ham always. So
Oh, yeah. I'm up there all day. Like, I have to fly into Newark. I have to stay up in like the Parsippany area. Not
Yeah.
Parsippany. Yeah.
yeah, Persephone. Yeah, that's
So
like
when I
that's where all my family is. Like, still, like my mom, my sisters, like all up in that area. So I was just there in August, actually.
Nice.
I love going back, so it's my
I
favorite.
love driving in snow. It's my favorite.
Mm,
No, I'm good. That's where truly I am a Florida boy. There you go.
yeah, I don't miss that part. I get ice
I would-
here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would take snow or I would take Florida, but I don't like being in the ice band.
No.
There's just really not much you can do with it. You just wait until it melts.
Exactly. That's so funny. That's why the Giants then. I get that now.
Yes. Giants, Devils, and Yankees.
All right, we agree on one. I'm not big on hockey, so we'll take that off the board. But I actually grew up a Cowboys fan because my one grandfather was a huge Cowboys fan, Staubach era, and would watch the games with him. But since then, though, like living in Kansas City for over 8 years and being there when the Royals win, I'm diehard Yankees all day. Don't come at me on that. However, I have adopted the Kansas City Chiefs. I am slightly obsessed. So,
Nice.
yeah.
John just likes his Fruity Pebbles dunks.
And now we're to shoes. Is that the direction we're going?
Sorry, it just took a weird turn, but I was
Absolutely
find
had
that
somebody
for a
trying to
second.
convince me to let them eat Fruity Pebbles out of the shoes just for content.
What?
Yeah, I would never.
No, it was at the festival. It was one of our friends at the festival was absolutely after that. I was like, I can't, no, because how you ever going to get the smell of milk out of your shoe? It's not going to happen. You should just throw it away. It's over.
Especially if you bought those secondary. Yeah, no. Not gonna happen.
It's not a thing. And then beyond that, like, I'm interested in making some content, but I don't know that I'm willing to debase myself at that level.
How do I feel like I know who said that?
you can sort that one out for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, were they going to replace the shoe? I would do it.
I don't know that I could ever. I don't know that I could ever put one of them on again after watching somebody do that, right? Because it's just it's a trigger. It's a memory. It's like, ooh,
I'll never be able to wear these again.
Never.
Right. Even if they were clean, it's still like it's a bad memory. I don't watched a grown man eat.
So they squished, like it's still.
I'm going on StockX right now to do that.
I mean, honestly, if you're doing it for this, you can just buy a kid version, right? Like you can go buy a little toddler version, so you don't have to spend as much money. You can get the cheaper ones.
That's true.
That's
honestly,
true.
I should suggest that to him. Be like, hey, go to StockX or Goat or whatever, and see if you can find a kid's.
It's fair.
See, this is weird. This is what happens when you drink whiskey, everyone. You get to have weird but also cool and poignant conversations.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
I'm over here searching for Taylor pork roll ham on Amazon, where you can get it. Absolutely.
Did you get it on Amazon?
$47 for 3 pounds.
No. You don't need to do that. I'll tell you the liquor store to go to, and I'll tell you.
So I've got my liquor store here in town. They regularly keep meats and bacons in the freezer. I may just be like, hey, there's a store in Louisville that has some. You guys ought to be able to as well. Bring me some fancy spam.
Gosh, that's spam.
John.
Oh, that really hurts my soul. Like
I'm starting to regret saying yes to this.
Honestly, if it took you to an hour and 56 minutes,
almost 2 hours
I did fine.
into it,
it did great.
Now I'm regretting it.
We did.
Oh man,
it was all good up until that point. You called it spam.
Yeah, I have a way of ruining things at the
fancy
end.
spam.
Yeah, at least it's fancy, right?
You take that back. There's nothing fancy about it.
It comes in a neat little bag instead of a can, right? Like there's it looks like it comes from an actual butcher, right? It does not. I can tell it doesn't, but it looks like it should.
It definitely comes from a factory with people that questionably wash their hands. So
all I know is
in a skillet and frying it. It doesn't matter.
It's ridiculous. Like, and when people ask me honestly, what's your favorite breakfast meat? I'm like, pork roll. And they're like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? What is that? You clearly are not a person of class.
No, clearly.
See, I said it was fancy, and you're telling me it's a class thing, right?
You eat it with your pinky up. No, you eat it
if you're gonna put fancy ketchup on it. Like you actually have to get the fancy brand.
You have to get Heinz. It has to be Heinz.
Okay,
or not at all.
I don't know, but
Well, it depends on how you eat it. Yes, okay, I'll say that.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you would go to when I would go to like a deli and that they would do ketchup, salt, pepper, egg, that whole thing, either on a hard roll or a bagel, like either one.
I feel like there's no way that I can accurately recreate this sandwich the same as the deli did.
No,
I'll take care of that for you. We're in the same state at least. I'll be happy to take care of that for you.
All you need is an egg or two, depending on how big your roll is.
Yeah.
Pork roll that's cut like this thick. Like it's got to be hearty piece. It can't be thin sliced with like multiples. It has to be one piece, and then American cheese. Please deli bought. Not like don't take it out of a plastic wrap.
Kraft singles. It can't be Kraft singles. It's got to be somebody sliced it up.
It has to be real cheese.
And the bread is crucial. Bread is crucial.
Yes, depending on what you're putting it on too.
Well, that's hard roll or bagel.
Hard roll. Yeah, hard roll or bagel. That's it.
That's it.
One time I had it on a Kaiser roll and it wasn't the same.
No.
It has to be that crisp with the fluffiness in the middle of it, like a hard roll.
Yeah. Someone tried to serve it between wheat toast one time to me, and I was like, I don't know what is this? They're like,
who's eating wheat toast?
That's I'm sorry.
Problem.
What psychopath made me this? That's what I would have done. Take this back, please. Go and get at least a bagel.
Yes.
And come back and talk to me.
So is this like a plain bagel? Is it an everything bagel? Like
It just has to be a good one.
A
Yeah.
good one.
See,
Just a
me
good
me personally, I don't like everything bagel or
Mhm.
garlic, or I like just a plain bagel with
Mhm.
that's I'm traditional solid. That's it.
same way. Because the pork roll, trust me when I say this,
Oh, it's so good.
it's going to be enough for it. It's going to
Yeah.
bring all the flavor.
You don't need anything else.
I'm just trying to make sure I get my culture appropriate. Like I am being cultured.
You will
and
offend tens of thousands of New Jerseyans. I don't even know if that's the right word.
Yeah, that is
People from New Jersey.
New Jerseyans.
New Jerseyans. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they call the people in my neck of the wood. Are we Tampons? That doesn't sound right.
You're overall Floridians.
Floridians.
Okay, if you have to call me that. Tamponian? That still sounds bad. Like
Yeah.
either way, it's not good.
No.
Yes, it is a New Jerseyan or New Jerseyite.
Yeah, I don't like the "ite." We'll go with
Either one of
we'll go-
those are
we'll go
appropriate.
Right. It's not as
It's not
easy
like
as like
Michigan.
New Yorker or
Right.
Pennsylvanian,
Yeah.
which is honestly New Jersey. Just top
It's
half goes to New
bananas.
York, bottom half goes to Pennsylvania. Nobody would probably miss it.
Maybe.
Somebody tell me I'm lying when I say that too, because the bottom half is all Pennsylvania, the top half is all New York.
Correct.
Sorry, this got really weird. Now, if any of those 9 people listening listen to this, they're gonna immediately go, "We need to go yell at him real quick."
Well, Central's
No,
weird.
don't worry. We'll cut this into a
Central-
reel or a short, so it'll be fun.
Oh, even better. So
But
more people.
here's the thing: is like it is broken down to 3 parts: North,
Yeah.
Central, and South. South can go either, or South is truly like Philly, Pennsylvania. North is truly New York. Central
Is the
that's a-
Garden State.
it's weird. You can go either way.
Yeah.
Either way. Either way.
Yeah,
My
it's- I
husband's
mean-
from Central Jersey, and
The bottom 30 miles of the state of Kentucky is just Tennessee. It's just other Tennessee.
It's just other Tennessee.
that's fair. Like Owens, like you mean like
Yeah, if you run
Bowling
just slightly
Green,
south of Owensboro and you hit,
Franklin, Bowling
Hopkinsville,
Green, Owensboro.
it's just other Tennessee. And I say that I live in Murray, which is a part of other Tennessee, right? Like that's where we
Yeah.
are. So
Okay.
it just is.
That's fair.
Well, let me tell you about Florida. No, I'm joking.
We know. We watch the news.
You already know, like
Yeah.
weird people of Florida. We follow that.
I might be in the most sane part of Florida.
Is there a same part of Florida?
Aren't you in the Tampa area where there's like a lot of cocaine?
I know.
I'm in the Tampa area.
I've been to Tampa. I've been to Ybor City.
I mean, I'm sorry, but Ybor can get a little bit crazy. Like, let's just go ahead and just say that Ybor
Yeah.
can definitely get a little crazy, especially like Friday night, Saturday night. Ybor City is like a place where we go to club. It's like a
Yeah.
clubbing district essentially. But Tampa's all around. It's pretty sane for the most part. Like, go to some of the other like bigger cities in Florida. They can get a bit dicey, like weird. Including,
But is that like a good comparison metric? Is like the other cities in Florida?
if you're going to compare them with the other cities in Florida.
Okay, that's fine.
I wouldn't compare it to like New York or DC.
As far as Florida cities go, Tampa is pretty fine.
yes.
Okay.
Now that I'm disowned by the state that I live in,
Except for Tampa. The city around you is like
yes,
our guy.
everybody in Tampa is like, thank you for saying that we are all right in comparison to others in Florida.
The folks in Fort Myers are upset right now.
No, let them be. Have you been there? It's not that great. But Tampa has a really good whiskey community. That's the cool part.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think in comparison to some of the other cities and societies that we have across the state, we're pretty decent sized one that, really good shops here. That's all I can say.
Mhm.
Really good shops, really good owners.
I don't have anything else.
I'm just staring into the abyss.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well,
I will say,
thank
I'm
you
really
guys.
surprised Mattingly hasn't come up. anytime I do any type of like video, anything, she always makes an appearance. She has to. So
I was like, are you talking about Jay Mattingly? What are we talking about?
I was like,
my dog.
is
My dog.
there drama? I can stop. I can pause and we can talk drama. But the dog
No.
got it.
My dog Mattingly.
After dawn.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yankees. Don Mattingly.
Oh, Dawn. Okay, yeah.
One. I was like,
I'm like, when you said Dawn, I was like, who is Dawn Mattingly? And then Dawn.
Dawn.
It was the.
It's the only other Mattingly that I can come up with that would make any sense, right? Like we were talking whiskey, there's Mattingly, but then
yeah, not naming it after the bourbon.
Right.
My favorite Yankee player. So one of.
I had a cat named OC.
Oh.
For OC Umanura.
Yeah.
From the Giants.
We had a cat named Herzog. Like Whitey Herzog, like the former manager for the Cardinals. Because he was solid white, but he had a bald spot on his head from where something happened. And so he looked like an old white guy that was sort of fat and bald. And it fit Whitey Herzog to a T. I was a kid, you know. It was the best you can do.
I love that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in for this offering from the Embellish podcast. If you enjoyed this, please leave me a review on whatever platform you have to be consuming this on. Leave a comment if possible. Hit me up on social media at TikTok or Instagram using EmbellishPod. And give me a follow so you can keep up with what's going on here. I can be found at www.embellishpod.com with all of my links, accounts, contact details, and more. Thanks for stopping by.